Hey guys, this is Alex here, the creator of Politics and War. I'm trying this out. I've been thinking about doing it for a long time now, but I want to be better about staying in touch with everybody in the community. And, I've had it on my to-do list to write up a report like every month or every quarter or something like that for a long time now. I've also tried some like fancier videos in the past, but I think it's probably best if I just kept it pretty simple and just did it kind of like podcast style. So that's what I'm going for here. And hopefully I can get to doing these more often. It doesn't really require a lot of setup. You can see that I don't have anything fancy going on. This is just kind of my usual office. I use that term loosely, office space. But anyway, this is the first time I'm doing this. I don't know if this will be the first one that I release, but there's lots of things that I could talk about in terms of what we're currently working on with Politics and War. The biggest thing right now is getting those alliance positions all out and running. And if you're not familiar with what that is it's been requested for a long time that we really update that alliance positions feature. By default, since the game has been around, you've had a leader position, an heir position, and officer positions, and then members. And what we're working on right now is a new system where you still keep all of those default positions, but you can add like up to 6 more, I think off the top of my head, custom positions. And then you can actually, with a big selection of checkbox settings, like I think around 17 different settings that you can mess with, you can choose, what permissions you want each of these custom positions to have. So that gives you the freedom to add names to them, custom names. You can also rename the default ones under this new system, which you could do before. But, if you have like an economics guy in your alliance and you want him to have different permissions than the guy who's running internal affairs or recruitment or foreign affairs or whatever the case may be, this new interface and whole system will kind of have that all set up for you. Or at least give you the possibility to customize it however you want. So I think that will be a pretty popular change. Right now, it's just kind of going through testing and just kind of full integration. I've got most of the interface set up. I really just need to go through and configure all of those permissions to make sure they're working properly, right? So that if you give somebody the permission to withdraw from the Alliance Bank, that actually works. And if you don't give them that permission, they can't withdraw from the Alliance Bank. And obviously all of that stuff needs to be tested pretty robustly to make sure that not dropping any crazy bugged updates on the game, which, probably happen anyway, but we'll see. I'm trying to minimize that. The next thing that I have on my list to do is setting up Alliance treasure trading. No, not alliance treasure trading, just treasure trading in general, right? So nations can have treasures. There's these things that they spawn in nations and they give some bonuses to nations and alliances. And, the intent behind them was that they could only be stolen through war. So you'd have to declare war on somebody and defeat them to take their treasure. And the idea was to spark some conflicts in the game, right? But in reality, what happened was people would basically buy them from each other, right? They'd be like, hey, I'll give you like $30 million and then you lose this war and I'll take the treasure from you, which kind of goes against the spirit of the rule, evokes a lot of war slot filling considerations. So quite a while ago now, at least over 6 months ago, I'm sure, we officially made it against the rules to do that, to negotiate those types of treasure trades, because we're running into a lot of war slot filling issues, right? And so part of the deal when I did that was I said, hey, well, I'll just build in the interface that lets you actually trade the treasure, right? So you can send a trade offer essentially that says, you give me that treasure and I'll give you, this amount of money or whatever. And I haven't gotten around to doing that, but it's coming up soon. I don't think it'll take too long. I actually did get started on it in July, and then it's just kind of been pushed to the back burner with some other things. So it's kind of tough to juggle all of these responsibilities. One of the biggest things that I have gotten done here in the very recent future was working on moderation, specifically implementing some new game rules that are more comprehensive, they're more robust. Behind the scenes, a lot of what's been going on, a lot of the development time that's been been spent has been going into developing a much better in-game moderator user interface. So before, I was kind of doing all of that myself. I was doing a lot of things directly in the database. And I've kind of been working on implementing a whole interface that is within the game itself, so that I can essentially bring on other people who can help moderate the game and use that interface, right? Because I'm not going to give people access to the database directly. And so that's kind of what I've been focusing on. So we got those rules in, we got a lot of that interface done. And then the next step was kind of bringing on moderators, right, to help work on the game, to do the moderation work, right, to free up more of my time so that I could spend more time on development and overseeing development and all that stuff. And I think we made a lot of progress in that in the last 3 weeks. I had brought on 2 player moderators initially, and they were doing a good job by all means. But I think the biggest issue was I was still doing, probably 90% of the moderation work myself. And these volunteer player moderators, right? Like they're, doing this labor for free basically. And it's very appreciated by all means. And I can't ask like so much. I can't be like, hey man, I need you to do like 20 hours a week on this. Like that'd be crazy, right? For a volunteer moderator. So what I actually ended up doing here, just about 2 weeks ago now, was I started working on a job description for a paid Politics and War moderator, and put that out there on one of these sites where you can hire people that work, remotely. And I kind of got that going, got some applications in, reviewed them. I found a really great guy. He's done great so far. He's been a good fit. His name is Lawrence. He's moderating in the game as Blaster Mars. And he's been doing phenomenal. He has a background with game moderation, with using Discord a lot, and with playing similar games like Civilization. It'd probably be crazy to find somebody who'd played Politics and War before that was going to apply to this position. But he has, I think, really been a natural fit. He's spent a lot of time learning the game. That was kind of the first thing that I had him do. I was like, hey man, let's just have you spend like the first week playing the game, create a nation, go through the tutorial, go through objectives, join an alliance, learn everything that they want to teach you about how the game works, and just to get a feel for everything, right? Because I'm sure you're probably thinking at home, like, man, a paid moderator, they're not going to know anything about Politics and War. They're going to do not a very good job. And I agree, it's a real concern of mine too, which is why I had him play. And he's learned a lot. He's asked a lot of great questions. I've been working a lot of training documentation to kind of help him learn the ropes of the game and everything. And slowly, introducing new concepts like looking at reports in game, looking at the forum and how moderation on the forum works. And we're just now starting to slowly introduce him into moderating Discord. Right. So having somebody on staff who can work like 20 to 30 hours a week, maybe less, maybe more, depending on what's going on, who can cover all 3 of these avenues, which really, to this point, I've been the only one who can do that. I can only imagine how much of my time that's going to free up. And I'm really excited about that. And I actually have a second person that I hired too for the same position, who is a little bit farther behind in that process, but I'm hoping that she will work out and be a good fit too as a second paid moderator. And I think it'd be good to have, some redundancy in case one of them's gone. We also run the same policy that we do on the forum, if you're familiar, where at least 2 moderators have to sign off on all decisions. So nobody is going around unilaterally, whether that's a player moderator or a paid moderator, and just being like, yeah, like here's a report and I'm just going to ban this guy or whatever. None of that is happening. Because we have like a 2 moderator review system. So one person sees a report, for example, determines if a rule is being broken, looks at the guidelines on the rules for how many moderation points that would warrant, as well as, well, I guess that's pretty much it. Like there's a range, so they'd make their determination of what they think is the best fit. And then, another moderator would come along and do the same thing. And then if they can agree, then, one of them will go ahead and actually issue the moderation points. Whereas, that should prevent a lot of issues with bias and a lot of issues, somebody making a bad judgment call, that sort of thing. So I'm pretty optimistic about all of that. And I'm hoping that will really accelerate the pace of the actual development on the stuff like the alliance positions, the treasure trading. The next thing that I have on my list after the treasure trading is a new tutorial. That's been something that's been in the works for like 2 years, and I just haven't really gotten through. But hopefully we'll get that knocked out. I'd hope by the end of the year. And then that's kind of it for immediate stuff. I can only tell you how big the backlog of potential ideas and potential changes is. This is just like my definite must-do list and highest priorities. Prefontaine with the development team, they've done a really good job of proposing changes, getting feedback from the community on a lot of different things, and we'll continue to do so. I have no doubt that we'll ever run out of things to work on and improve in the game. But I just kind of wanted to highlight some of those things. And then I thought that this platform would be a fun way to just talk about, ideas about the game. I think I'm a fairly creative person. I must be, I guess. And I just, was thinking about this idea I had for asteroid mining in politics and war. And so I'm not saying this with the promise that this would be coming out, that this would even be added to the game, or that it would be added anytime soon. But I just thought it'd be fun to, think about it out loud and talk about it and record it and put it out there for everybody to think about and consider, and, maybe give your feedback, your suggestions, what part of that might work, what part of that might not work. And so I'll just kind of flesh out this idea that I had. And it was basically an extension of some of the space stuff that we've done with the game, right? So we have a space program project and some of that stuff, but it's fairly limited. But there's a lot of room for growth there. And space, I think, is very topical, in real life right now too, right? We've got all these private companies running all these missions, working with NASA in the United States and other space agencies. And they're really starting to get serious about doing things like going back to the moon. And who knows what else private enterprise has in mind for space travel. But so asteroid mining specifically is something, that's been a part of pop culture for a while. It's not a new idea, right? That there might be minerals and things on asteroids that we could go out and collect and bring back to Earth, right? So I'm going to have to pause this because my dog is at the door barking. So sorry, I'll be right back. Sorry about that. She was barking at the door and I was trying to ignore her, but couldn't ignore her any longer. So anyway, asteroid mining, right? Not a new concept, pretty topical with real life. And I was thinking about, a way that we could add some new content to politics and war. Just was kind of throwing around the idea in my head. And I thought, hey, I've been having this idea for this podcast. Why not combine the two? Let's just talk about it in the podcast and put it out there. So this is not something that I've hardly even written down or thought through that well. I just was thinking about the idea and I took some notes. So I'm looking at those. But basically the idea, as I have it in my head, would, to introduce the concept of asteroid mining would probably require some sort of new national project specifically about asteroid mining that would, a prerequisite would be like the space program. And then with that, you'd probably have some sort of asteroid mining rig or something, some sort of thing with its own page that you can upgrade, like maybe has its own stats, has like a location. I use that tentatively because it wouldn't really be map based. But part of what I was thinking was, we could have asteroids near Earth that had the potential to be mined. And each one could be kind of unique. We could set them up with their own attributes. Like maybe they have varying quantities of resources like, iron and bauxite, lead, and maybe uranium, who knows, right? And so these things are floating around in space and you have your asteroid mining rig and you can send it to go to an asteroid, maybe for some fees, use some amount of gasoline, consider that like the fuel, right? We don't have like rocket fuel specifically, so we could use gasoline as a proxy for that. And, you send your mining rig over there. Let's say each asteroid has a different size to it. And so There are only so many spots for mining rigs to land. So let's say we've got asteroid A, it's got 4 landing spots. And so if you can get there in time, you can be one of those first 4 or only 4 that get to mine this asteroid. You send your mining rig over there. It lands on the surface of this asteroid, starts, pulling resources out of the ground, right? Other people send their mining rigs over to the same asteroid. They start pulling stuff out too. You probably get some different rates of return depending on like who's there, right? So if you're the only one, you have the potential to extract all of the resources and probably at a faster rate than if other people show up, right? So maybe the second person that shows up decreases, the amount that you can get by like 50% and maybe slows the speed or something. Maybe it doesn't affect the speed. I don't know. And you add, additional people and that basically reduces your rate of return, right? So you get this kind of like racing environment. You get this competitive environment for like people competing for different asteroids. And, so your rig runs until the asteroid's out of stuff and then it like returns to Earth. At which point the resources get like deposited to your nation, right? And you could think about this in terms of like a business project or something, right? You could weigh the costs of, any monetary cost plus like gasoline used to travel to the asteroid. Maybe these asteroids have different distances, so one's farther away, may or may not be more lucrative, but are harder for other people to get to. How much resources you expect to get, what the value of those is when you bring them back, like, what's it going to be worth? Right. So you can think about ways that you're going to either profit or not profit based on what asteroid you select, maybe, different upgrades you might have on your asteroid mining rig, right? Like maybe you have, things that increase or decrease, well, probably not decrease, like, things you can upgrade that would increase the mining speed, things that might increase like the pace that it moves in space. So like how quickly it can reach an asteroid, how quickly it comes back to Earth, right? That would improve your profitability. Maybe things like fuel efficiency, maybe, solar panel attachments that, I guess that'd be part of like fuel efficiency, right? Reduce the amount of gasoline you use, something like that. So I think that would probably add a fun element to the game. I know that a lot of players aren't at that space program level, right? This is kind of thinking about content that would go toward much more established players, but there's probably not a huge demand for the space program project right now. Like this could increase that, and just create a way to I guess a new way to mine resources, a new way to compete with each other, right, over these things. Like I could see somebody like declaring war on somebody else because they jumped on their asteroid, right, and turned their very profitable mining operation into one that's going to be a net loss because they're not going to bring back enough resources to profit. There's probably ways in which this could affect resource prices, right? Like, things to consider would be you would want to have so many resources produced that from this way that it makes things unprofitable. And in a way that would probably take care of itself because of the player run economy, right? So if it's like a big bauxite asteroid, but bauxite is super cheap, like nobody's really going to go for it or whatever, right? So these things would balance themselves out, but we would want to make sure that we're not creating like an oversupply of things. And a counterpoint to that is you can create a resource sink in the creation of the actual project and the rig and the upgrades that you might put on it, stuff like that. So so that's most of the concept. And then in terms of like actually creating the asteroids, I was thinking, you build out some sort of random generation function that has certain chances of producing different types of asteroids and how frequently. So I think that all of that could be really interesting. Seems like a fun addition to the game to me. Seems like as long as you were really mindful of any potential negative consequences, you could add it and it wouldn't hurt anything, right? And that's really the most important thing. Maybe some people might be like, that's a really dumb idea. I don't want to do that. I wouldn't use that. That's okay. You don't have to use everything, but more options in general makes the game more fun for more people. And like I said, as long as there's no like negative consequences, as long as we're not like tanking the global resource supplies, we're probably all right. So I don't know. Like I said, this isn't something that I would be pursuing anytime soon. My guess is this would take, uh, well over 6 months to even start development on. But I thought it was a fun idea. I really like space a lot personally. I recently went out and like watched that new movie Dune, and I've been reading the books. I got a buddy who read the book and wanted to go to the movie. And so we've been talking about that and thinking about it, but I've always kind of liked space. I actually, when I was real little, I thought I was going to be an astronomer when I grew up. But so thinking about space and science fiction and stuff like that, I've never wanted to get too crazy in the game and go too like out of what's realistic, but I don't think we're that far off from asteroid mining sort of thing here. So it seems like within 10, 20 years, we'll have companies like SpaceX turning big profits by bringing back huge caches of whatever asteroid minerals they find. But anyway, I thought it'd be fun to talk about. Hopefully you've enjoyed listening to this, and I'd like to do more of these in the future. It's really easy for me to just sit and talk. Whereas I think I'm more of a perfectionist when I'm like writing things out, and it takes me a long time. Whereas, here I make a mistake or rattle on or whatever. It's just part of the flow and how it all goes. Right. So, anyway, I guess I'll leave things here. I hope you enjoyed this, and, hopefully you'll be hearing from me soon with, some more of these. So, thank you guys very much. I guess I should probably also say, thank you for playing Politics and War. Thank you for making the game what it is, giving us this great community. And I'm really looking forward to developing more things, really continuing to grow the community in the game and everything, and just making everything even better and creating a better experience for everybody and having more fun along with you guys. So I think that's a better outro, and I'll leave it there. Thanks, guys.